Imagine this, the year 2008. Can you feel a slight tremor beneath your feet? At first, it's barely perceptible, then it grows stronger and stronger. This isn't merely autumn bringing withered leaves and cold weather. No, this is the harbinger of a monumental, unprecedented earthquake that would forever reshape the world as we knew it. An earthquake that began with a devastating financial catastrophe, casting a long, ominous shadow over your very stability, your savings, your future. Feel that chilling sensation crawling up your spine. September 15th, 2008. This is a date that global financiers, heads of state, and millions of ordinary citizens recall with unconcealed horror and profound bitterness. Do you remember how it all began? How this tragedy unfolded? On that fateful day, the unthinkable happened. The collapse of investment giant Lehman Brothers Holdings Incorporated. This wasn't just the bankruptcy of a single company, no matter how large. No, it was a deep bleeding wound that seemed to tear through the seemingly impregnable firmament of the global economy, unleashing a furious, relentless torrent of economic apocalypse. This bankruptcy became the largest in the history of the United States of America, and its deafening echo reverberated across the entire planet, shaking foundations that had seemed unbreakable. You'll be shocked to learn the full scale of this disaster. It triggered not just a chain reaction, but a genuine avalanche of financial disintegration and total all-consuming distrust that swept across the globe. Like giant dominoes, each piece weighing billions of dollars, it brought down with a thunderous crash a centuries-old fortress that had appeared absolutely unshakable, impervious to any external forces. Do you remember those images of panic on Wall Street that circled the world? Traders clutching their heads, their faces contorted with despair, as if they were witnessing the end of the world unfolding right then and there. These chilling images spread globally, becoming a frozen, grim symbol of an entire era, the realization of an imminent, unavoidable catastrophe that no one could or would prevent. No, this can't be happening, people cried, unable to believe what was unfolding, yet reality was cruel, merciless, and inevitable. Millions of citizens overnight lost years of hard-earned savings, pension funds, future plans, dreams of homeownership, children's education, all dissolved into an abyss like sand slipping through fingers, carried away by a hurricane. The mechanisms designed to ensure global financial stability proved not just powerless, they were like fragile rafts, helplessly tossed into a raging ocean of global economic storm, rudderless and without sails. Millions of people worldwide woke up to find their future, their security, their dreams, all shattered by a system meant to protect them. Markets crashed, stocks plummeted, mortgages became unaffordable, and entire countries plunged into recession. It seemed the world was crumbling. And what about the central banks, including the powerful Federal Reserve System of the United States of America, tasked with safeguarding economic stability? What solution did they find for this unprecedented crisis? What was their reaction to the impending collapse? They were forced, as if in a fit of desperation, to initiate an unprecedented emission of trillions of dollars. This was not just a step, not merely an economic decision. It was a true cry of desperation, unparalleled in its scale and consequences, echoing across the world. Where did these colossal unearned funds, literally printed out of thin air, flow? To rescue. But who? The very financial institutions whose reckless, risky operations had catalyzed the crisis, becoming its true instigators. Just imagine the sheer absurdity of this situation. It's like firefighters extinguishing a raging inferno with water drawn from the very tank that started the blaze. Irony of fate? No, rather a mockery of common sense and the millions who suffered. Trust in the traditional banking system, the one that for centuries had served as the bedrock of economies, an unshakable pillar, a symbol of reliability, was not merely undermined, it crumbled to its very foundations. It turned into lifeless ruins from which nothing could be rebuilt. Millions of citizens lost faith in governments, in financial regulators, in their ability to protect ordinary people from systemic risks, from such catastrophes. We felt abandoned to the mercy of a raging storm, rudderless and without sails, not understanding where the world was headed or where to find salvation. Why did no one warn us that the system was so fragile, so vulnerable to collapse? Or was it deliberately concealed to maintain power and control? This question hung in the air, unanswered, only intensifying the disillusionment. And so, in this atmosphere of total chaos, widespread skepticism, profound disillusionment, and almost physical pain from losses, as if in a dark, forgotten corner of a bewildered, disheartened world, a tiny seed of new hope was sown. October 31st, 2008. An event that initially went completely unnoticed by the wider public became that very barely visible spark which, years later, ignited the flame of a new era, illuminating the path to the future. In a highly specialized mailing list for cryptographers, like a secret message passed from hand to hand, a short but fateful message appeared. From whom? From an anonymous genius whose identity remains one of the greatest mysteries to this day, hiding under the pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto. Are you ready to find out what happened next, what lay behind this enigmatic message? It contained a link to a single document, a manifesto that would later go down in history as Bitcoin's white paper, becoming, one might say, its sacred scripture, its cornerstone. This document was not merely a technical description or a scientific report. Oh no, it was a true fiery manifesto written in the ink of defiance. It was a declaration of war against an outdated, decaying financial architecture, a genuine, formidable challenge thrown directly in the face of the empire itself. It was a call to build a fundamentally different world, a world founded on principles diametrically opposed to those that had led us to global catastrophe. It was a clarion call for freedom. But what exactly did the white paper propose that so alarmed the existing system, making it tremble? A radically different vision of money and its management. A vision where there was no place for intermediaries, where central authorities were absent, where there was no opportunity for a select few to manipulate the system, like invisible puppeteers pulling strings for their own benefit. Shocking. Wasn't this incredible, even fantastical for that era? The birth of Bitcoin amidst widespread financial collapse became not just another event, but a symbol of resistance, an aspiration for a new world order, a beacon of hope that lit up in the raging sea of despair and chaos. Two paths, centralized, controlled by a few, and decentralized, belonging to all, stood at the threshold of their historic confrontation, like two mighty armies poised for a decisive battle for the future of all humanity. And this was the main point. It wasn't just new technology. It was a war for the future, for freedom, for justice. It was a blueprint for creating a financial system immune to human error, corruption, or malice. The history of money, from primitive seashells and shining gold serving as ancient mediums of exchange, to invisible electronic transactions made with a single click in the modern world. What has it always been, if you look closer, if you delve into its true essence? A history of power and control. It has been that invisible yet strong thread on which, like puppets, the fates of entire civilizations, nations, and individuals have hung. The traditional financial system we know is not merely the apex of centuries of evolution. It is a colossal, sprawling empire whose roots run deep into the ages, nourished by power and influence. Its steel backbone consists of central banks, the Federal Reserve System of the United States of America, the European Central Bank, the Bank of Japan, the People's Bank of China, and many others. They are endowed with exceptional, almost divine authority, like omnipotent monarchs ruling their kingdoms. They possess the monopoly right to currency issuance, literally printing money out of thin air by pressing buttons or running presses. And this doesn't just influence, it determines the cost of living for each of us, regulates our purchasing power, our opportunities. Their decisions on interest rates, money supply, quantitative easing, shape the economic climate for entire states and continents, like invisible conductors of a global orchestra, playing the symphony of your fate, your life, your well-being. And private banks? They act as loyal intermediaries, strict guardians of the financial gates, controlling personal accounts, transactions, access to loans, mortgages, investments, and this is incredible, but true. These institutions have tangible embodiments, monumental buildings resembling temples, majestic skyscrapers, luxurious corporate headquarters towering over cities like fortresses. They lobby for their interests in the corridors of power. Their presence is palpable and ubiquitous, permeating all spheres of life. Their leaders are well-known figures whose names and decisions shape global financial news headlines, setting the agenda. They are the true generals of this empire, and their power is built upon complex legislative acts, regulatory norms, and centuries-old traditions that seemed unbreakable. A powerful state apparatus ensuring compliance with rules supports it. It seemed an unbreakable, impregnable wall built for eternity. Or, so it seemed for a time. The system is totally centralized. Any financial action, from the smallest purchase to the largest international transaction, requires approval and recording in the ledgers of these controlling bodies. Every step we take is tracked, every move we make is recorded, leaving a digital footprint. And have you ever wondered how this empire even began, how it managed to establish such a firm grip, and who benefited from it for centuries? The answer is obvious: those who sought total control. But in stark contrast to this monumental empire, beneath its ubiquitous and all-seeing gaze, something else was emerging in the digital underground, a movement. The cypherpunks, a secret brotherhood united by a shared, audacious idea that many at the time considered insane. Imagine, almost no one knew about them. Their names weren't making headlines. These rebels, no, they weren't naive hippies dreaming of world peace without real action. They were brilliant programmers, ingenious cryptographers, profound philosophers, and mathematicians. They were united by common ideals, absolute freedom and inviolable privacy in the digital space. Their convictions formed in the 90s of the last century, at the very dawn of the Internet era, when the future of digital communications was just beginning to take shape, like the sunrise of a new, unknown, yet promising era. They believed that the Internet should not just be a network for information exchange, but a sacred, inviolable space of complete anonymity and freedom, where every person's information and personal data were sacrosanct, like the innermost sanctuary of the soul. The idea of an inalienable right to privacy in the digital world was the cornerstone of their philosophy, an unshakable principle for which they were willing to fight to the end, using their intellect and knowledge. For them, cryptography was not merely a tool for data encryption, but a powerful means of achieving political and social freedoms, a true weapon in the fight for human rights, for self-determination. They dreamed of creating digital cash that would allow people to conduct transactions without surveillance, without control from states and banks, without intermediaries who could censor or block them. It was a dream of true digital freedom, accessible to everyone. Among them were such brilliant minds as Wei Dai, author of the B-money concept, Nick Szabo with his idea of bit gold, and Adam Back with his proof-of-work system, Hashcash. Their ideas became not just precursors to Bitcoin, but the very sparks from which the flame of a great revolution ignited. These concepts, which at the time seemed too complex or impractical, laid the foundation for future decentralized systems. Satoshi Nakamoto, whose identity remains one of history's greatest enigmas, one of its most intriguing mysteries. He was apparently a true genius, able to synthesize all these disparate ideas, seemingly unrelated, into a unified, powerful, and harmonious whole. The goal of these rebels was not merely to create new technology or improve an existing payment system. Oh no, their aim was truly grand: to take control of money away from banks and return it to ordinary people, to become true folk heroes, liberators from financial servitude. Now that's a twist. Who would have thought of such audacity, such a radical paradigm shift? This ideology of decentralization and self-sovereignty became the driving force, the very lifeblood that fueled Bitcoin's creation, giving it a powerful impetus. The cypherpunks foresaw the potential of digital technologies. They clearly saw how they would alter power structures, especially in the financial sphere, undermining monopolies. They were visionaries of the future. Their manifestos, circulating in closed mailing lists and forums, were not just texts, but fiery calls to action, foretelling an era of digital freedom, an era of new justice. The echo of these calls spread across the network, preparing the ground for impending changes. The creation of Bitcoin was the culmination of decades of intellectual quests, titanic technical developments, and profound philosophical debates, the pinnacle of the cypherpunks' efforts, the embodiment of their boldest dreams. Just think about it. How much passion, intellect, labor, and dedication were poured into this revolutionary idea? The blockchain itself, it wasn't just a technology, it was a veritable weapon forged by rebels in digital forges designed to dismantle the old world. An architectural innovation radically different from anything that existed before. It overturned notions of world order, trust, and control. What then is its essence, its unimaginable power? It lies in a distributed ledger. Each transaction is recorded in a block, and this block is cryptographically linked to the previous one, like unbreakable links in a single ever-growing chain. This chain of blocks forms an immutable, unshakable public record of all operations, as if carved in stone. To understand this weapon, you don't need complex mathematics or deep programming knowledge. It's enough to grasp just three key properties, like three pillars of a new faith, on which the entire system rests. Get ready, I'm about to reveal a secret that will change your perception of finance. It's simpler than you think, but the consequences are monumental. The first and most revolutionary property of blockchain is absolute decentralization. Unlike any traditional financial system, it has no main server, no central authority, no boss, no single master to appeal to or to bribe. There is no single point of failure that could be attacked, shut down, censored, or subjected to political pressure. It is simply invulnerable, like a mythical giant. The Bitcoin network consists of thousands of independent nodes worldwide, scattered across different continents, each storing a complete copy of the transaction ledger, like many repositories of the same undeniable truth. Just ponder that. What invincible power, what resilience to external influences. This means the system cannot be turned off at anyone's whim. Its leaders cannot be arrested because they simply don't exist. Nor can specific transactions be censored. It is subservient to no dictate, no state, no financial giant. Wow, isn't this the kind of freedom from external control we've strived for, waited for so desperately? This is true financial self-governance by the people. The second critically important property is complete transparency. All transactions from start to finish are publicly visible on the network to anyone, like an open book of existence laid before the eyes of the whole world. They are recorded on the blockchain the moment they occur and become part of a permanently immutable ledger, like an engraving on the stone of history itself that cannot be erased. Hear this key point. Therefore, transactions cannot be forged, cannot be retroactively canceled or altered without the consent of the entire network, without its collective approval. Integrity here is paramount. It is the cornerstone of trust in the system. Any participant can verify the authenticity of any operation without relying on trust in intermediaries, becoming their own auditor, controlling their own finances and the finances of the system. Just imagine how radically this changes the entire game, all the usual rules of the financial world where opacity was always the norm. The third key property is the return of control. It returns directly to the owner of the funds, to every individual, like long-awaited power given back to the people to whom it rightfully belongs. Access to money on the Bitcoin network is secured by a unique cryptographic key known only to its holder. Personal, secret, and absolutely inviolable. No one, except the owner of this key, can access your funds, freeze your account, or cancel a payment, even if the most powerful government demands it. This is not just sovereignty. It is absolute financial sovereignty. Let me reveal the most crucial secret to you. This is precisely what we so desperately lacked in the traditional system, where banks can dictate their terms. It gives an individual complete financial self-sufficiency, removing dependence on banks, governments, or any other third parties, liberating them. Blockchain is not just a technological innovation, it's an architectural solution designed to eliminate the very need for trust in intermediaries, shattering old paradigms of control. This technology is a fundamental existential threat to centuries-old monopolies built on controlling financial flows and information, like a mighty battering ram breaching the walls of ancient fortresses. A real shock, nothing short of a complete financial revolution, changing the rules of the game forever. The proof-of-work algorithm. It's not just code, it's a shield forged from mathematics and cryptography, ensuring the security and integrity of the entire network. It requires miners to solve complex cryptographic puzzles, akin to ancient riddles guarding unimaginable treasure or the entrance to a secret vault. Just imagine a whole army of digital guardians scattered across the globe, tirelessly protecting the system from any encroachment. Miners, in essence, are decentralized auditors, guarantors of security who compete for the right to add the next block to the chain, becoming guardians of a new order, its unshakable defenders. Their incentive, their driving force. Newly issued bitcoins and transaction fees, an ingeniously designed economic mechanism ensuring a self-sustaining economic model that operates without external interference. This is the real key. The system works on its own, without external management, without central control. Creating a new block requires significant computational power and energy expenditure, making forgery or rewriting transaction history virtually impossible and economically unfeasible, erecting an impenetrable wall of defense around the system. The absence of a centralized issuer, that is, an entity that can arbitrarily print money, ensures Bitcoin's scarcity, mimicking the properties of precious metals like gold, granting it intrinsic, undeniable value, independent of government decisions. Incredible, but true. This isn't just a digital currency, it's digital gold, a safe haven for your savings. The total number of bitcoins is strictly mathematically limited to 21 million coins, which precludes inflationary money printing policies at the discretion of authorities, protecting it from arbitrary devaluation. Can you imagine how critically important this is for our future, for preserving our savings? The concept of halving, periodically reducing the miner's reward by half, is embedded in the protocol itself, guaranteeing a predictable decrease in issuance rates, like an immutable law of nature that cannot be broken. Thus, Bitcoin represents a self-regulating monetary system, free from the arbitrary nature of human factors, from corruption, from political games. It is an ideal, self-sufficient mechanism operating according to strict mathematical rules. And most importantly, do you understand the full depth of this? It is absolutely independent of anyone's whims, of changes in governments, of the economic policies of individual countries. It has become the digital equivalent of hard money, designed to preserve purchasing power regardless of geopolitical or economic upheavals, inflation, and crises. A true, reliable sanctuary for your savings that cannot be confiscated. This new weapon of the rebels was designed as an impregnable fortress for personal finance, capable of withstanding the assault of any empire, any external threats. It was a challenge thrown at tyranny itself, a challenge that could not be ignored, a challenge that forever changed the world. The first years after Bitcoin's creation, they can aptly be called the guerrilla phase of the war, when the new weapon underwent its initial trials. This new weapon was known only to a narrow circle of enthusiasts, operating in the shadows, like underground revolutionaries preparing their uprising. At that time, Bitcoin was primarily used by geeks, cryptographers, researchers, those who wholeheartedly believed in its potential as a means of digital freedom, as a tool for a better future. It was like secret knowledge, passed by word of mouth, from one initiate to another. Why did this revolutionary knowledge remain in the shadows, not gaining widespread adoption? Because it was too revolutionary, too radical for the mass consciousness, too complex for ordinary people to grasp. The first transaction between Satoshi Nakamoto and Hal Finney, one of the most respected cryptographers of his time. It became not just a technical exchange, but a symbolic act marking the dawn of a new financial era, a first step into the absolute unknown, into a world yet to be built, and the historical event that entered legends and became an internet meme known to millions? The purchase of 2 pizzas for 10,000 bitcoins by Laszlo Hanyecz in 2010. Just imagine. Today, this transaction seems not merely fantastical, but utterly insane, as 10,000 bitcoins are now worth hundreds of millions of dollars. This purchase vividly demonstrates Bitcoin's negligible value at its inception and the unpredictability of its future, like a child's game that turned into unimaginable treasure. Wow, who could have foreseen such a twist of fate, such a transformation from nothing into something incredible? Early users exchanged bitcoins on obscure forums and in IRC chats, like conspirators united by a common goal. They were creating the first fragile beginnings of a decentralized economy, a small but constantly growing world where everyone could be their own bank. Exchanges like the infamous Mt. Gox appeared and disappeared, suffering from hacker attacks and security flaws. This highlighted the risks of the early stage, the fragility and vulnerability of the new system's youth, and the need for its improvement. Mt. Gox, launched in 2010, quickly became the largest Bitcoin exchange, dominating the market, becoming its Tower of Babel, so to speak, a symbol of grandiose ambitions and, simultaneously, a warning. Its subsequent collapse in 2014, due to the theft of hundreds of thousands of Bitcoins. It became a bitter lesson for the entire community, long undermining trust and leaving a deep, unhealing scar in the young community, prompting reflection on storage reliability. Bitcoin also gained notoriety due to its use on darknet markets like Silk Road, which gave the empire an excellent pretext for criticism and accusations for intensifying pressure. What do you think they were trying to hide by accusing Bitcoin of being used by criminals? The truth about their system, its vulnerabilities and injustices, rather than about a new technology that could displace them. However, despite all these obstacles, the community continued to grow, and faith in the future of decentralized finance strengthened like an unquenchable fire, burning ever brighter, fueled by conviction. After a period of calm and gradual growth, the first significant victories in this financial war emerged, becoming harbingers of even larger battles to come. Sharp surges in Bitcoin's price, beginning in 2013, like dazzling lightning piercing the night sky, attracted the attention of much wider segments of the public, bringing it out of the shadows. In April 2013, Bitcoin's price first surpassed the $100 mark, causing not just interest, but a veritable torrent of speculation and excitement worldwide. This was the first resounding success, a first warning bell for the old system. Then followed a turbulent, dizzying rise at the end of 2013 when the price soared to over $1,000, creating the first unexpected crypto millionaires and changing the lives of thousands of people, demonstrating the real possibility of rapid wealth accumulation. Imagine a fortune earned in mere months thanks to faith in a new technology. These sharp ascents, accompanied by equally rapid declines, began to create an aura around Bitcoin not only of incredible opportunities, but also of colossal risks, like a dance on a razor's edge, demanding caution. A new, truly explosive growth occurred in 2017, when Bitcoin's value approached an incredible $20,000. It became a global phenomenon. Everyone was talking about it, from schoolchildren to pensioners, from taxi drivers to major investors. Can you grasp the scale of this phenomenon? It was beyond imagination. It completely altered the perception of cryptocurrencies. This bull market led to a massive, unrestrained influx of new investors eager to get rich quickly, ignited global media hype, and turned into a true 21st century gold rush. For the first time, the world began to speak of Bitcoin not as a niche technology for geeks, but as a potential new financial paradigm capable of turning everything upside down. This also led to the emergence of thousands of other cryptocurrencies, so-called altcoins, and a boom in initial coin offerings, ICOs, creating an entire incredibly diverse ecosystem of decentralized finance. Just ponder that. What a variety of opportunities opened up for humanity thanks to a single idea. Bitcoin's growth became undeniable proof of its viability, its resilience, its ability to generate real wealth and true power. Ignoring it simply became impossible. And what about the empire, that centuries-old established financial system? It couldn't remain idle, observing this audacious challenge. In response to this defiance, it launched a series of fierce counterattacks, seeking to suppress or discredit the new, incomprehensible, threatening phenomenon, like an ancient, awakened monster defending its age-old dominions, its wealth, and its power. This cannot be. Their angry cries, their furious declarations, full of fear and misunderstanding, echoed. Bankers and politicians from around the world, as if in collusion, began vying to call cryptocurrencies a bubble doomed to inevitable collapse, predicting a swift end to this adventure. They characterized them as a scam, a Ponzi scheme, possessing no intrinsic value, attempting to thoroughly tarnish their reputation and sow doubt. Nikki, what do you think they were really hiding behind this hysteria, these angry accusations? The truth about their system, its vulnerabilities and injustices, rather than about a new technology that could displace them. The narrative actively spread. Bitcoin is exclusively a tool for criminals, used for money laundering and terrorist financing, attempting to ignite widespread fear and panic among the populace. This was the main strategy. Fear, that is their favorite centuries-proven weapon, allowing them to manipulate the masses. Central banks and financial regulators issued angry warnings, direct threats, trying to impose bans on the trading and use of cryptocurrencies, tightening their grip, striving to reclaim lost control. The People's Republic of China became a pioneer in this draconian policy, introducing strict restrictions and complete bans on mining and trading, erecting, one might say, an impregnable great digital wall, attempting to isolate its citizens from the new technology. Sensational. A mighty nation against the freedom of its citizens, against innovation. These measures were aimed at thoroughly undermining trust and preventing the mass adoption of decentralized assets, seeking to halt the growing wave of financial revolution. Traditional media outlets, often influenced or controlled by the financial elite, actively broadcast a negative agenda, becoming mouthpieces for the empire, amplifying panic and spreading disinformation. Pressure mounted on exchanges and services related to cryptocurrencies, demanding increased regulation and user identification. The screws were tightening like a vice. During this period of confrontation, it seemed the empire possessed an overwhelming, crushing advantage in resources and influence. Its power appeared absolutely unshakable. Incredible, but true. Back then, it seemed all was lost and the revolution had ended, doomed to defeat. However, unable to destroy or completely ban cryptocurrencies, which proved impossible due to their decentralized nature, the empire switched to a new, far more sophisticated and cunning tactic, the Trojan horse tactic, deciding to radically change its strategy, having realized that direct confrontation yielded no results. Get ready, you'll never guess what happened next, how cynically they changed their approach. This final, most dangerous stage of the war is unfolding right now, before our very eyes. What does it entail? An attempt to tame the rebel's weapon, integrate it into its system, make it a part of itself, transform it into an obedient tool. The world's largest financial institutions, the very ones that previously called Bitcoin rat poison and predicted its swift demise, began to show a keen, genuine interest in it, fundamentally changing their rhetoric to be more positive and even laudatory. A true shock. Unbelievable, right? What a swift change in rhetoric. Investment giants, BlackRock, Fidelity, Grayscale, names that until recently sounded synonymous with traditional finance, began actively offering Bitcoin-related products, opening new floodgates for institutional money for large investments. The culmination of this process was the historic approval of spot Bitcoin ETFs in the United States of America in January 2024. This opened the doors for billions of dollars in institutional investments, becoming an unprecedented step that altered the market landscape. These exchange-traded funds allow traditional investors to gain exposure to Bitcoin without directly owning it, without worrying about its storage, merely by buying shares in the fund. This is a powerful signal of legitimization, an acknowledgement of its undeniable strength and significance in the world of finance. Large corporations, such as MicroStrategy and Tesla, have already included Bitcoin on their balance sheets, recognizing it as a reserve asset and confirming its value as a store of capital. Now, this is a game changer. It changes absolutely everything. It sets a new precedent. This is a strategic move, embedding the decentralized weapon into the very foundations of traditional corporate and investment structure, transforming it into a new yet controlled foundation. The empire is trying to control the capital flows into the cryptocurrency sector through regulatory frameworks and licensing, as if directing a turbulent wild river into its artificial channels that it can control. This is the main point. It's a subtle, hidden battle for Bitcoin's soul, for its original ideals. Financial elites realized the complete destruction of Bitcoin is impossible, and now they aim to assimilate it, absorb it, stripping it of its original revolutionary spirit, turning it into another instrument of their control. You'll be amazed at how quickly and cynically views change when power and money are at stake. This process means the transformation of Bitcoin from a niche rebel asset into a recognized asset class in traditional markets, a change in its status. But on what terms? And will it be a Pyrrhic victory? In parallel, as a shadow project, central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, are also actively developing. This is a direct attempt by the empire to create its own fully controlled version of digital money, its own lethal answer to Bitcoin's challenge to its principles of freedom. Do you realize how truly dangerous this is for each of us? CBDCs are not merely a state-controlled alternative. They are a tool that could undermine the very decentralized principles of Bitcoin, a direct threat to its mission, its existence, its freedom-loving spirit. A true sensation. The game isn't just getting more complex, it's approaching a critical point where the fate of our financial freedom will be decided. CBDCs could offer governments unprecedented control over citizens' finances, allowing them to introduce negative interest rates, manage money's expiration dates, or even block certain types of purchases. This could become a tool for total surveillance that surpasses anything previously possible. The war between the old and new financial systems, it is not over. Moreover, it has only entered a new, far more complex and insidious phase, meticulously hidden from the eyes of the ordinary person, concealed behind a veil of legitimization and integration. Now, the battle is not fought on the fields of outright denial and prohibition, but in the subtle realm of integration, defining terms of coexistence in the arena of diplomacy and hidden maneuvers, in a battle for meanings and interpretations. And the central burning question remains open, like a gaping wound demanding an answer. Its outcome will determine the future of the entire global financial architecture, like a decisive battle for the fate of the world, for its principles. And most importantly, realize that our future, our financial freedom, and privacy depend on this too. Will cryptocurrencies transform the old financial system, reshaping it from within, imposing their principles of decentralization and transparency, like a victorious revolution from the future? Or will the old system absorb and change cryptocurrencies, stripping them of their original revolutionary potential, turning them into another instrument of its total control? A tamed beast? In truth, you'll never guess what the outcome of this battle will be. It cannot be predicted with 100% certainty. This epic confrontation will continue to shape the economic and social landscape for decades to come, becoming a true landmark in human history, its defining moment. History has not yet written the final chapter of this financial revolution, and its outcome depends on our choice, on our conscious participation, on the choices we make today, on our collective will, our conscious involvement, our activity. Just imagine, we can all influence this outcome, this fateful battle. Every new regulatory decision, every major investment, every change in Bitcoin's protocol is another brushstroke in this grand historical canvas, being created right before our eyes, right now. The future of money, and with it, the future of each of our freedoms, stands at a crossroads, choosing its momentous path, and we must be ready for this choice. Debates on privacy, sovereignty, and inclusivity will only intensify, igniting with new, untamable force, becoming ever sharper. Bitcoin's role as digital gold, a reliable store of value, versus its function as a medium of exchange, a tool for everyday transactions, this remains a subject of active discussion, a constant search for a fragile balance between these two important functions. And here's the paradox. One doesn't negate the other. It merely expands the potential, offering the world a universal tool. The energy consumption of Bitcoin mining has also become a separate field for fierce criticism and the search for solutions, transforming into a serious ecological challenge requiring innovation. The development of second-layer technologies, such as the Lightning Network, aims to solve scalability problems and accelerate transactions, becoming a step towards its mass adoption, its everyday use. Would you believe it? Solutions are being found, and they are already working, gradually making Bitcoin more accessible and efficient. Ethereum and other blockchains have introduced their own revolutionary innovations, extending the functionality of decentralized systems far beyond mere money, creating an entire astonishing world of possibilities for decentralized applications, smart contracts, and whole ecosystems. The emergence of decentralized finance, DeFi, represents an attempt to create an entire parallel financial system, a completely independent world, free from banks and intermediaries. NFTs, or non-fungible tokens, have shown how blockchain can ensure ownership of digital assets, changing the very concepts of value and possession, opening new horizons for art, collecting, and gaming. You'll be amazed at how deep and comprehensive these changes are, how they permeate all spheres of our lives. These new aspects only complicate the picture, adding new fronts to the overall war for the future of finance, making it multidimensional and intricate, yet simultaneously more interesting. The question of who will control information and transactions. It remains central, key to understanding the entire struggle, the entire confrontation. Bitcoin was originally a response to the failure of centralized control, and its current assimilation calls into question its original mission, its true purpose, to be free from control. Why do you think they are trying so hard to hide that they want to absorb and neutralize it, stripping it of its revolutionary power? Because they recognize its might. The temptation to regulate and totally control digital gold is as great as with physical gold. It is an eternal, insatiable desire for power, a pursuit of monopoly. However, the strength of decentralization lies in its distributed nature, its elusive quality. This makes complete suppression extremely difficult, for it cannot be seized, cannot be enslaved, cannot be forced to comply. Sensational, this is its main unshakable strength, its fundamental resilience. Each state chooses its own path, from complete draconian prohibition, as in China, to integration and the creation of its own regulation, like different armies taking their own, sometimes contradictory paths, trying to find their approach. This leads to fragmentation of the global cryptocurrency market and creates new, unpredictable challenges, further complicating the overall picture, but also creating new opportunities. Geopolitical risks and sanctions lend Bitcoin new, fateful significance as a means of circumventing traditional financial barriers, making it an instrument of resistance, a means of preserving financial freedom under pressure. Rising inflation in traditional currencies once again underscores the appeal of supply-limited assets like Bitcoin, its enduring fundamental value as a hedge against currency debasement. The Bitcoin community, despite internal disagreements and debates, remains a formidable force capable of influencing events, becoming a collective will that cannot be ignored. Wow, this is a true invincible people's power capable of changing the world. Lobbying groups formed by the crypto industry are beginning to compete with traditional banking lobbies, asserting themselves as a new political force capable of influencing legislation. Educating the public about the principles of cryptocurrencies becomes a key element in this information war, the foundation of our coming victory, because only a conscious choice can be truly free. Educational initiatives are aimed at demystifying the technology and its potential, dispelling myths and prejudices sown by the old system. Public understanding of decentralization mechanisms and their advantages can determine the outcome of this historic battle, awakening the consciousness of millions, making them reflect on their financial destiny. Incredible, but true. The fate of this revolution is in our hands, in the hands of every conscious citizen. The ability for an ordinary person to become their own bank without intermediaries or controllers, this is a fundamental, astounding paradigm shift that grants everyone unprecedented power over their money. The attainment of true, unrestricted freedom. New governance models, such as DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, demonstrate real alternatives to corporate and state hierarchies, ushering in a new era of self-governance where decisions are made collectively, not by a narrow group of elites. The revolutionary ideas of the cypherpunks continue to live and evolve in new forms, becoming fertile seeds of the future, sprouting in unexpected places. This war is not just technological or financial, it is profound, philosophical. It defines the contours of individual freedom in the digital era. It is a true struggle for the soul of humanity, for its right to self-determination. The role of states in the new system remains a subject of active, painful reevaluation as they lose their monopoly on control. Have you ever considered what the authorities truly think about this, how they react to this threat? Will monetary sovereignty be ultimately transferred to citizens, granting them unprecedented freedom, or will it be forcibly returned to the full control of central authorities who will try to tighten their grip even further? Here it is, the main question, hanging in the air, awaiting its answer, which will be written by our actions. Studying the historical dynamics of interaction between innovations and the establishment provides invaluable lessons for understanding the current situation, for anticipating the future. This isn't just wisdom from the past, it's a roadmap for the future that we can use. Analogies with the advent of the internet, the printing press, or even firearms. They vividly demonstrate how fundamental technologies radically shift power and reshape society, creating new structures. Each such invention inevitably provoked fierce resistance from old systems clinging to their power, but ultimately led to their profound transformation, to their rebirth or disappearance. This is the inevitable, inexorable march of progress. Bitcoin is not just a new type of asset or another financial innovation. It is a direct, uncompromising challenge to the entire architecture that has governed the world since the Bretton Woods agreements. It is a challenge to the very essence of financial power. This is not just an earthquake, it is a tectonic shift beneath the foundations of the old world, changing it to its core. It is a test for humanity. Are we capable of building a more just and transparent financial system, achieving true justice and financial freedom for everyone? History teaches, change is inevitable, but its form and consequences always depend on collective choice, on each of us. Let me reveal the deepest secret to you. Our strength lies precisely in the conscious choice of each individual, in our ability to unite and act. We are not just to observe, but to actively participate in how this conflict will unfold and what lessons humanity will learn from it, how the next chapter of our shared history, our shared destiny, will be written. Today, we stand on the very threshold of a new financial era, where each of us is not just a witness, but a potential participant and creator of this grand historical transformation. Participating in understanding and shaping this new reality is not just a responsibility, it is a sacred duty of every citizen, every free person, to fully grasp this dynamic. Don't delay. Dive into learning about Bitcoin and decentralized finance right now, before it's too late. For the future is built on our decisions and our understanding, on our conscious choice. Do not stand aside from the epochal changes that will affect absolutely every person on the planet, that will change your life. For knowledge is your main defense, your reliable shield and sharp sword in the new, inevitable financial reality. Act now.